Hey world, I'm live again. I know that very rarely happens these days. So here's another episode of the KEW Exchange where knowledge through experience creates wisdom. We are going to have my friend Rich Cardona with me, and we're going to talk about the deep struggles of all his different life transitions. At this point, I think he's the life transition pro, and you inspire people in every way. You do. You go, man. You go get it. Like you just fight, man.
So do you, man. We
So
were just talking about it as we were warming up.
yeah,
I
it's
resonate with people who get after it, just like you, man.
that's it, right? It's all about. I mean, you can't give up, right? Like, what's the option? Like, I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, what's the option?
That's right.
You know, I'll mope for a few months, but I won't give up. Um, so give anybody who doesn't know you, give a little bit of a background on you, so people understand where you've come from, where you're at, what you're doing, and then
Yeah,
we'll dig into the fun shit.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I am a retired Marine Corps aviator. I spent 17 years in the Marine Corps. I got out a couple years early. They were offering early retirement, so I jumped on it because I wanted to stay in SoCal, beautiful sunny SoCal, just like where you are right now, Mike. And so now he told me he's in negative something degree temperatures, and I told him I cannot process that in my brain. Did those 17 years, got an MBA, went to Amazon for a couple years. I did not enjoy that whatsoever. So there's like your military transition. There's this transition back into academics. There's a transition out of academics, and it's into corporate, out of corporate, and into my in-laws' basement to just suck it up and figure out what the hell I was going to do with the rest of my life. And ultimately, I made myself unemployable because I have tasted and succeeded in small amounts in entrepreneurship so far. First with a very, very heavy focus on LinkedIn and video marketing, and now as just running a personal branding agency that is taking off, every day. So that is my perspective. So just like anyone else, I believe we're always going through transitions. And also have a podcast called The Leadership Locker, which is geared towards small business owners and veteran entrepreneurs. But the more and more I actually do this podcast and conduct it, which I love to do, it's just about all the different transitions we go through in life. So it's completely consistent with this, Mike. So I'm ready to go, man.
So, all right. So I'm frozen on my side because I had a couple tech issues immediately because it's just live and that's how my
Okay.
life. So we're just gonna roll with it anyway.
Sure.
And if you make faces or want to stab me, I won't know the difference. So so let's talk about the first transition, right? Let's talk about out of the military and how that
Yeah.
went.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I think is beyond relatable, and it's going to be even more relatable soon.
Well, I couldn't wait to get out. When you're ready to get out, you're ready to get out. I mean, it's like, see you later. I really appreciate everything you've done for me, my beautiful military career, and you can't wait to get out. And what I've learned is the longer I've been out, the more I kind of want back in, or I miss a lot of what was going on during that service. The second thing I would say that's the most important is the transition's not complete. When I talk to a lot of transitioning service members, everyone's really focused on that first job, that first offer letter, that first anything. But what you don't realize is that the transition lasts years. I would venture to say I'm still transitioning. I mean, like, look at me. I've done so many different things since in the 5 years that I've been retired, but it's not over because you get an offer letter. It's not over because of a single event. There is just, it is something that continually evolves. And I think that's part of the secret to leaning into your transition, whatever type of life or professional transition it is that it's continuous. There's not any finite amount of time associated with it. So in regards to my military transition, I mean, like, I thought, okay, cool. I go get degree, I get job, I am happy with job, and life goes on. Like, it could not have been any different than that. I mean, it was a completely disorienting and visceral experience, and just kind of being from someone who's all about, the team and the camaraderie, and no one's bigger than your own, no one's bigger than everyone. as a whole to promoting yourself and lobbying for yourself, in an interview, for a job, for a salary, for whatever. And it was just super interesting. So that in itself was extremely challenging. And I mean, I learned so much about myself during that duration of time.
So, what was the emotional side of it? Like, I mean, it's not something that men talk about often, but I think it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
What was like the emotional side of that? Like that loss component, that trying to just figure out what to do next? Like, where did it take you?
Yeah. So a lot of doubt, a lot of low self-esteem, a lot of ridiculous perpetuating negative self-talk. And the reason is, like, I truly don't believe a lot of us, especially if you've served, believe that we're entitled. Okay. We do absolutely recognize, though, that we've done some things that some people will never be able to do or have done or serve at a level that a lot of people can't, right? Like, we're literally now surrounded when we get out by the people we chose to serve and volunteered to serve. Okay. Like, we volunteered. So we acknowledge that, but not in an indulgent way, not in a boisterous way, but just as, like, I had a different path than the majority of people I will ever come across. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But the emotional side was, and again, it's not entitlement. It's, I used to operate a $24 million aircraft, but I can't get this. So sorry, I'm used to not G-rated, so I'll keep it clean just in case. I can't get this shitty sales rep job with this shitty base for this shitty company. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it was just, and dude, this is coming from a place from someone who networked their face off, who did all kinds of transition courses, who had so much feedback, good feedback, who went to get an MBA and came out of pocket because I drained up my GI Bill because it was private. I did everything I thought I could to prepare myself, but mentally somehow something was wrong. So the emotional side goes from nervousness to anger to F this, to what the hell's wrong with me, to just like this just gamut of emotions that it is just, like I said, it's disorienting. You're just like, dude, where do I put my feet on this thing, right? It's like you're kind of like, parachuted out and you're like, where am I going to land? This is a little bit crazy. So emotionally, it was challenging. And you don't have to be in the military to go through that, obviously. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of transitions you're going through in life, because as long as there's like kind of darkness ahead and you don't have a flashlight to see what the hell's happening, there's always going to be a bit of nerves. And I know that to be true for so many of us. And that's what it was like, man. I mean, it's still like that with a lot of different things, but now I handle it much, much better as time goes on.
Well, I mean, that was me a year ago, right? When I first came out to Arkansas, it's like, okay, I'm going to be here. What do I do? I hit this depression.
Yeah.
Fell like off a cliff. And then it was like, okay, if I'm going to be stuck here, which I originally thought was going to be last July, right? And then turned out October, and now it's, hopefully I'm less than a month away. But it is what it is. Like, if I was going to be stuck here, I might as well do the work on myself, right?
Yes.
And I might as well improve myself as a person in the meantime. I mean, there's nothing I can do out here anyway.
Yep.
So I might as well. And, I think that self-work is a lot, right? Like, there's no guidebook to transitions. Like, no. When you're leaving the military, they give you these courses, they teach you, they show you, and it's like, I feel like there's a huge disconnect, especially for military, because it's so unfair, because like you said, you volunteered to put your life on the line to protect the country. And there, in my mind, there's a certain level of respect that comes with that I give naturally, inherently too. But not everybody looks at it that way, right? They just look at it on a piece of paper and says, well, how do these skills apply to my, this job? How did this guy do this and then try and go do this? And I had it in different ways, right? Like, I worked with the UNDP for years. I did international projects. I signed international contracts with governments directly. Like, I mean, I have contacts globally. I do all this great stuff. And I used to go for interviews sometimes, and it would be like, why are you applying for this job? I have kids to feed. Like, does that count? Like, I mean, and it's like they don't even acknowledge the gap there, the difference, right? And they don't understand the value add of different skill sets. And that's challenging, right? So talk about your transition from when you went from that job to your entrepreneurship, because I know you've talked about it a lot, but I think it's really important, especially the direction the world is headed today, where so many retail companies and so many more things are going to go out of business in the next 6 to 9 months. And there's going to be millions and millions of people looking to transition into something different.
You said something a few minutes ago that is so unbelievably important, and that is self-work. The most important work you will ever do is self-work. That is what is going to shape and mold you into what's going to allow you to live a long-term, happy, sustainable life. It's not the job, and it's not the military, and it's not necessarily your friends. You know, I always have these kind of dark places I go to in my head where I say, who's going to be there if I ever get terminally ill? Like my freaking coworkers, like when I had a job, like, no. You know, some of my brothers and sisters from the Marine Corps, maybe. My family, yes. So it's like you got to get your ducks in a row in terms of what you prioritize and what you want to work on. But the best asset you could be is an amazing person to all those around you. And that only comes from self-development. So, you know, everyone who has a focus on this job, on the job or what you're going to do or how you can serve and who's going to say yes or no to my interview is ridiculous. Like I've decided I just can't live like that. It's entirely up to me. And you mentioned Arkansas. You're like, what else was I going to do? Like, of course, like, what else are you going to do? Like, there is nothing else to do except like work, like put in the work. Like, how can I make my life better than it was yesterday? How can I make it better for the future, et cetera, et cetera? So the transition out of the job was number one, necessary. And this is like the most important thing I could say is the moment where you're laying in bed at night and you're saying to yourself, like, is this it? Especially on a Sunday, it's already a wrap. It's already a wrap. Okay. Meaning like your mind, you are never going to be alleviated of that unless you take some like major action or work slowly and repetitively towards improvement from that situation. Stress comes from problems that you don't solve. Period. So if you're at this job and you're unhappy, like it's not magically going to get better. You're not just going to get a new leader or get moved to another department or get transferred to another location where somehow it's going to get magically better. The bones are there and the writing is on the wall. So self-work is the most important regard. You know, is the most important thing you can do for yourself to be prepared for those kinds of situations. Now, as far as a transition, I left because I let it get to a point where it's completely catastrophic. I was putting myself in a position to get fired over and over. I didn't give a shit what I was doing, how I was doing it. It was literally, and I could say this, and it's fine. It was like a cry for help, man. Like I was like, dude, like somehow, some way, like I just need to get the wrong attention so that way I could be on my way. Because at that moment, at those times, I was too much of a coward to just call it what it is, right? And just be like, can I do without the money? Can I do without this job? Can I do without whatever? Can I rebuild myself from scratch? And like, I just needed someone to like force me into that. And, you know, I ended up kind of doing it myself, right? Like I almost self-sabotaged my career. And then I was just like, I'm on my way. So my wife is like, that's it. Like, it's time. We moved in with my in-laws into their basement. I started looking into my curiosities, determining what it is I could do, wanted to do. And I mean, this is a choice that is so rare. You don't get to make that choice. But if you kind of align how you want to go about it, then it's absolutely possible to discover what it is that you will be willing to miss lunch for, bathroom breaks for, all that kind of stuff. So I spent that time reflecting, man. And guess what, Mike? It's self-work. Like, that's all it was. It was self-work. It wasn't like a business plan. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have any of that shit. I just thought deeply about what the hell was going to make me happy long-term and what was going to make me a better father, a better husband, a better worker, a better whatever. What's going to allow me to do it over and over and over again and not complain to anybody. It's the best position you could ever put yourself in. So then I started doing a little bit of video work and trying to get people's stories out there, and then away we went.
So, okay, so give people a little bit more about what you do, because I think what you do is specifically unique, and the way that you do it is beyond unique. And I think it's obviously perfect timing for it because video is everything.
Yeah.
Even though Clubhouse exists, I don't buy into it the way everybody else does, just because I just don't.
Yeah.
I feel it's like a time warp that you disappear into and you kind of get lost in.
It can be. It can
And
be.
maybe I just don't have the discipline, right? I mean, I would have never worked in the military. I would have washed out 30 minutes in.
Nah,
Somebody
not true.
no, somebody would have looked at me and said, "Do this," and I would have said, "Why?" Like, why? I just don't get it. It's just not. I ask. I won't do things. So,
Yeah, yeah,
that's just me. I've always had that authority figure issue. So, but that's fine. I know myself well enough not to even try.
yeah.
Um, it wouldn't have worked out well for me.
All good, man.
Unless I could have been, Steve Rogers, pulling the cork out of the flag and letting it fall to the ground. That I would have figured out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Trying to climb the pole. But I don't think I would have had that opportunity because I wouldn't have made it that far. But like, talk a little bit about what you do right now, because what you do is so powerful and it gives everyone a voice. And that's really what you're doing, is amplifying their voice so people see behind the company, right?
Yeah, man. I love deeply what I do. And I would say, a week or two ago, I would say I make you awesome on video, not awkward on camera. But things are evolving, and I'll get into that in a second. But I really believe we all have a message to get out there. Okay. We all have a message. People need to be heard. You need to be seen. And I don't mean that in some weird, fluffy way. We all sit and have things that we just want to put out into the universe, things that we've experienced, that we've learned from, things we want to make. A lot of us want to make people's lives easier. And just because you have a job doesn't mean you don't have the right to do that either. So what I uncovered was I discovered Gary Vee when I was at Amazon, and I was like, who the hell is this dude? And then I started watching more, and I was like, who's this dude? And then I was like, I need to get on a plane, and I'm going to pay a bunch of money to go see him at this conference and do this meet and greet afterwards. So I'm like, I'm paying. So did that, and I was like, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. But before that, I really wanted to know. I'd never seen anyone like him. So I started looking around at the people he surrounded himself with, the type of people that he worked with. And I became connected and friends with a bunch of people at VaynerMedia. And now this wasn't some way to get to Gary. This was just I really was interested. How does a guy keep keep Claude Silver around? How did that happen? None of it was making sense to me. So Claude ended up being a mentor for me during my whole Amazon phase, and it was just nuts, but we became very quick friends, close friends. And when I moved into my in-laws basement, the first thing, Mike, I could think of was how can I repay her? How can I repay her? How can I repay her? Which is crazy, right? You're living with your in-laws and you're like, how can I repay this person? The last thing that should be on your mind is how am I going to get out of this place that has a cat and I'm allergic to cats? And we just gave up 4,500 square foot of space for this little basement and whatever. But I was like, how can I give back to her? So I was like, he has so much content. It's out of control, but she doesn't have enough content, in my opinion. So I wanted to give back to her. So she was one of those voices. Then I started thinking so I started making content for her. I made content for her. I started meeting new people in her circle and in and around, her network. I was like, she's amazing. Jill's really awesome. Mark's pretty dope. Mike's awesome. Let me see if there's anything I could do for these people. Okay. And it just kind of started. And as it started, they're like, hey, do you think you could film this and this and this for us? We'll pay you a little bit. And I was like, sure. And what I discovered was it's not about the camera work. Okay. I'm not an amazing videographer. I'm not an amazing editor. I have people who help me do that now, but in the beginning it was me. What I do, Mike, to answer your question in the longest freaking roundabout way, is I like to unwrap people. I like for you to come out of your shell, to be authentic. You don't have to have any veneer on when you show up on social. You could present your message exactly the way you want, exactly as you are. And that to me is a gift. It's a gift. You have the ability to give a gift to people. And that is what I'm obsessed with doing. So we help individuals, founders, executives, companies. We help get their messages out there in a way that's just non-salesy, crappy bullshit. Like, we help you come across the way you want to come across. And the reason is no one cares about your company. No one cares about my company. They care about the people in the company because they are far more interesting. And I could relate to Mike, not the brand. You could relate to Rich, not Rich Cardona Media per se, right? So that's what we do. And that's now it's just kind of taking different there's different versions, because now we want to do that for each medium. We can do it for podcasting. We can start your podcast. You don't want to do a podcast. You don't want to be heard. You don't want to be seen, but you want to be read. Then great. My COO is in publishing forever, so we could publish for you. You want to get involved on Clubhouse and kind of fill it out. Like, we can help you with that. So it's evolving, Mike. But bottom line is, we are now, like I said at the very beginning, a full-fledged personal branding agency focused on the people who want to pull the trigger, who know they have something to say, but haven't quite done it yet. That's why we exist.
So you're amplifying people's authentic voices, no matter who they are, what company, industry, or anything.
100%.
So how did you, like, okay, so you started helping out Claude, right? And Claude's amazing. I mean, Claude's getting everywhere, even though she probably still doesn't do enough, right?
Yeah.
She's magical. Her words are amazing. She's all heart. She should be everywhere.
Yes.
But I don't know if the world's ready for that either. It would be too happy, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So when you look at that, right? Like, how did you go from, okay, I want to pay her back, to I'm going to help her start making content? Like what was the flip in your head? Like, was it truly just watching Gary Vee, like, literally just wallpaper the world? Because nobody covers content better than he does, right?
Yeah.
And he's so focused on his message and coming across, because I remember before I came to Arkansas, like, I listened to everything he did, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to hear it at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, when I started coming out of my depression, I remembered everything he said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like when I was stuck here in Arkansas, and David Meltzer, and like those Ed Milet and a few other people, like, their message resonated with me, but I wasn't ready to hear it. But when I was ready to hear it, I already knew what to do.
Yes.
So it's already resonated into my head at that point.
Yes.
So what was that flip for you? Like, what really triggered that flip? Because, I mean, honestly, going from managing a $24 million aircraft to corporate world, to leaving a corporate job, moving into a basement with a cat that you're allergic to.
Yeah. Exactly.
To then saying, how do I pay Claude back? Like, what was
you just said it, though. This is a really interesting interview, because you're saying it and you don't even realize you're saying it. You said that Dave Meltzer, Ed Milet, you weren't ready for it, but when the time was right, you knew what to do. And by the way, I'm going out to do Dave in person next month. So I forgot to tell you that. So I'm really excited about that. But what you said, without saying it, is this. You weren't ready for it, but you knew when the time was right that you could go receive it and act on it, which means you don't have to be ready to put the message out that could help other people. Like, if it's out there, when the people are ready, they will take it and they will run with it, and they will do exactly what they're supposed to do. Or they will be like, wow, I understand now how this completely applies to me and how I could improve myself or my situation or whatever it is. So that's one aspect. The other switch was this, is you could watch Gary, you could watch any content creator, Lewis Howe, Sarah Blakely, it doesn't matter. You could watch all these content creators and you could conceptually know, this is what I need to be doing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's how you want to approach it, right? Like, you don't need to do it the way they do it. You need to do it the way you want to do it. And that, just like anything else, takes just being ready and just like, you can't force people to make content, right? Like, I could tell you till you're blue in the face, like, dude, you got to make content. I mean, hypothetically, but until you're ready, then it's not really going to work. And the reason I know this is because we've had people who understand the need for content, but actually weren't ready to be on camera. Now, I could get you more comfortable on camera, but you need to be all in on I know my message. I'm ready to create content. I want people to see me. I want to help and all this other stuff. But there's like little echelons when it comes to that. And if the echelon is simply understanding that you need to create content, you ain't going to resonate with anybody, because everyone's going to see that you are doing it just to do it. Like, I believe people like you and me are able to pick up on the energy, which is, I'm doing this because I know I have to, not because like I don't feel like I could keep my mouth shut. Jocko Willink is a client, and he's also obviously someone who's been on my podcast. And one thing he said when he said when he was working with his publisher who had 2 Ivy League degrees, he goes, you know, I'm a guy who went to high school, and then I was a Navy SEAL, I was a commando, and you know, like, you know, isn't it crazy I'm writing books when you should be writing books? You know, and she goes, oh, I can't fill out a page of anything to save my life. She goes, I just realized that's not what I'm here for. She goes, you can't stop writing. You can't stop saying, like, I need to get this out. I need to get this out. And he goes, I have 1,000 books left in me, he said on our podcast. And look, man, like, he wasn't always like that. Obviously, otherwise he would have been doing it forever. So when you want to really get your message out, nothing's going to get in the way. So with Claude, the switch was this. The switch was like, let's just dip our toe in the water. Like, being grateful is one thing, but dude, we could have been making tons and tons of content since then, but we do it here and there. And then she works with one of my old videographers, and that's good, man. But like, the pace is comfortable. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I hate saying that because I don't think you need to be ready for everything. But when it comes to this, if you really want to have the maximum impact, you have to have made amends with the fact that this is not just something I should be doing. This is not just something people are telling me I need to do. This is something I like, bona fide. I want to serve. And if you want to serve, then you're going to win.
Well, see, here's the good news. I'm much more willing to serve this way. You know, going into the military to serve wouldn't work for me at all. I'm telling you. It's like, I'm looking at this, right? And I think about where I was a year ago, right? We were just talking about how it's a year already, but I'm not even the same person, right? Like, this year.
You're not the same person you were a week ago.
No, I'm not. Like, my whole world has changed, right? And everything has shifted. And my whole perspective on reality is different now, right? Like, yeah, I'm back into myself. I'm back into my spirituality. I'm back into my right headspace that I'm building and I'm creating. And you know, yeah, this podcast is part of it. But I mean, I was doing my YouTube channel, sharing my journey, right? And half of them crying, half of them laughing, part of them miserable, you know, but I shared my journey because I don't think enough people share the journey, right? And maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist, so I was okay doing that. But I look at this and I feel like more people need to be comfortable, right? Just being where they're at. And it is like you said, right? Like, when you hit that point, you just know, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what changed, because I look back and it was like, you know, I guess the end of 2019, I started doing video after Brian Shulman busted my chops for 8 months about doing it.
Yeah. Good dude. Really good dude.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff. And then Gabe Leal started going live, and I helped him build his podcast. I helped him put guests on it and all that stuff. And he finally said, come live with me. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Get ready for the zoo, right? Because it's me and 3 kids in the middle of nowhere. So there's the zoo. And I did that, and then it was, you know, then I helped Annie Lee build hers, and I was on with her a bunch. And then little by little, I just started helping others build theirs, get guests for them, and all these different things. And then I just, you know, at the end of the year when I was doing that You're Not Alone thing, I got LinkedIn Live halfway through, and I said, I guess I'm just going to make a show now, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to do it. And it all just lined up because I was ready. Right. I did the work. I had a message to share. I have a voice to help others get to a different place.
Yep.
So you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live helping others build their LinkedIn, right? And you don't look to charge people for it. You don't look to do that. You're just always there to help people. Right. Yeah. And so how do you tie it all in? Right. Like, you're doing the branding and all these things, personal branding for individuals within corporations, maybe getting corporate clients out of it, then turning around, bringing it to all the different platforms.
Yeah.
But your core focus is still LinkedIn.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, it is.
And how do you, like, where do you envision that going in the next 3 to 6 months? Like, what do you envision? Like, is your core going to change so you're going to go all in on Clubhouse? And
No, I don't think so. So, well, we talked about transitioning earlier, and when I transitioned, I did not understand what LinkedIn was about. I literally thought it was just a place where you get a job or something ridiculous. And then when I was at Amazon, I was like, it's just a place for me to get promoted or to be seen by other people who can, other people in Amazon, so I could go transfer and work for them, or maybe someone in a different company that'll see me and whatever. But I didn't understand how to make content. I didn't understand anything. But when I quit, LinkedIn became my security blanket. I was adding 1,000 connections a month for 10 months. And I was like, okay, like I need to make sure I have 1,000,000 connections. It was ridiculous, man. Like none of it meant anything. Like none of those connections meant anything. But what I realized once I started using it the right way and kind of documenting the journey a little bit and trying to add value and just being like, who can I help that's like 5 minutes, behind me, right? You know what I mean? Like who's going through this? I could help transitioning service members. I could help people who are approaching entrepreneurship as they approach 40. I could help people who are, reluctant to get on video. I could help people who don't know how to balance work and family because I do my Sunday family posts, right? All these different things. So it took a long time to do that, but the platform literally is responsible for the business that I have today. So I won't turn my back on it unless it just becomes like insane. But I'm all in on LinkedIn also for the fact that I know there's a lot of professionals on the platform. There's a lot of people I could serve on the platform. It's a little bit less noisy, obviously, than some of the other social media platforms. And more importantly, look, man, like the organic reach is good. Do I care about my message reaching as many people as possible? Yes. Do I care about my client's message reaching as many people as possible? Yes. So that's exactly why I'm going to do that. Now, TikTok has amazing reach. Why am I not there? Because the people I want to work with aren't necessarily that content's not going to resonate with them. And you know what? I can't control that content. Like I can't make them really cool, crazy music filled videos. All right. Like what we could do is we could research their industry expertise, questions being asked in the marketplace about that right now, and make it relevant on a platform where people are looking to get knowledge, to get educated. So I won't turn my back on LinkedIn, number one. Two is I'm incorporating it with Clubhouse. Look, Clubhouse, man, for anyone watching, Clubhouse, this is one of those things where all these stories, before I knew anything about social media, when people talked about being early to a platform, this is being early to a platform. Like you literally, there's only 8 million people on it, which is nothing, but it feels like there's it's completely packed, but there's not even Android users on it. And if they are, it's because they went and got an iPad or got a burner phone that they could just have for Clubhouse. So what does that tell you? It's different. It's unique. The value prop is crazy. And people are spending consecutive hours on it. They are not.
I think it's days. I think they literally sit there for days.
Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you can't say that about Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Like, I mean, you may add up cumulative time and it might add up to 2 or 3 hours a day, but people aren't sitting there for just like hours straight like they are on Clubhouse listening or participating or literally waiting on stage to ask a freaking question or waiting in the audience on stage to then ask a question. It's crazy. So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is that I get on there at 8:30 every weekday with some great other LinkedIn experts, and we answer questions for 2 hours, and it's called LinkedIn International Office Hours, and we want to just include people all over the world and just help them with their LinkedIn stuff. Now, are we monetizing? Am I looking to make a sale? Am I hoping that the people who see me on there DM me and are like, how can I work with you? Like, no, that's not it. Like, this is just like the giving part. But what I do believe is being early to that platform will help you get established, will help you lead rooms, will help you moderate and get the attention. I mean, we all know, in order to get the results that you want and in order to serve more people, how are you going to get to your how are you going to get attention? You get attention, right? So you want to be involved and on the platform as much as possible. So I will be on that platform plenty. I will lead rooms plenty. I will contribute to rooms plenty. And hopefully, if there's anyone I could serve and they self-identified, then great. But I'm not going to be that guy that's on there who's like, and by the way, like, welcome, I'm opening up spots to my mastermind this weekend and blah, 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 blah. Like, no. That's not what I'm doing, man. So it is a fantastic platform. I think it meshes well with LinkedIn. It's a good little relationship going on, but the future is going to be continuously helping on LinkedIn and continuously helping personal branding on the Clubhouse side.
See, and I think that's awesome, right? And the way that I look at this is the way that granted, I'm an Android person, so I can't use it either way. My iPhone's in the mail, but probably stuck in snow. So like literally I ordered it last week and I'm sure it's stuck in snow somewhere. But like the way I look at it is I'm going to use it as a tool, but I'm also going to learn to limit my hours because I get sucked in, right?
Yeah.
I can't get sucked into it.
Nope.
I will get way too sucked in. But when I'm looking at it, I think a lot of the vanity people that are on LinkedIn, which we all know that they exist, have run the Clubhouse.
Sure.
And I also feel like LinkedIn now is more focused on getting real business done again. It feels, I mean, like I scroll through the feed sometimes, like over the weekend, and there was no more of those, fluff posts that looked like 300 people copied the same post. Right?
Yes,
like
yes.
I didn't see them anymore. So I'm starting to feel like now's the time that I could really capitalize on LinkedIn and really going back to building.
Yes.
Because I joined LinkedIn in 2006, right? And I built the network. I got up to 24,000 people in 2011 or 2012, deleted my account. Now I flew to Portugal 3 times. I was invited into international events to speak at. I did work with the UNDP. I was a UNDP member of an organization for 5 years, right? And this is all through the power of LinkedIn. But what I noticed was at that point, my network was too focused. And I didn't like the way that it was focused on industry specific. So when I reopened the new account in 2013, I think, I don't know when it was, but I did. I carried over like 2,000 or 3,000 of my high profile contacts at that time. People I was working with in the UN, stuff like that. And then I started building from scratch. And now everything is just with intent, right? I'm not looking to get to 30,000. I want to stay under 30,000 so that if it's the right person, I can still add them.
100%.
Right?
100%.
I care about followers. I don't care about the vanity stuff. I want to make impact. I want to reach the right people. And I want to be able to facilitate real business, right? So when I'm looking at Clubhouse and I'm seeing all these people post about all these amazing rooms, and then I see people with posts that they're going to be in there for 6 hours, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, right? And it's great that it's a new hot thing, but do you work anymore?
Man.
Do you feed yourself? I mean, because or are you creating a funnel from it? Which is cool if you are. I'm sure there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
What you do is so specific, and I don't want to say specific because I know that you do it on other platforms, but it's so powerful on LinkedIn. Like it is your power. It's your superpower, right? Because you're giving people with no voice or that don't share their voice a way to share their voice on LinkedIn, right? And you're amplifying that for them and doing it in a way that they can articulate and reach their people, right? Because that's what it's all about, is finding people that are at your level, where you want to go, so that you can get there, help them get there, or push you further.
Yep.
And it's all about building your real community for you, right?
100%.
So where do you see your business, your evolution, your next evolution in business? Like, what do you envision for yourself?
I've been thinking so much. The last 2 weeks of December, I've had a full-fledged plan to scale this company to 1 million. And we're, I think, about 20 months in. I just updated my profile recently because I had to, long story short, but I looked at when I registered my business in Virginia and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, I thought it was over 2 years ago. It's only been like 20 months. So, and we grew fast. First half year was kind of whatever. we grew way big yet last year, even during the pandemic. And then this year I'm like, okay, cool, 1 million. What I realized was, what the hell was the million for? Like, what is it? Is that going to make me feel great? Is it a good stretch goal? Yeah. Is that going to make me more noteworthy? Like, what the hell was I trying to get out of that? And I think I made a podcast about this, which is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. To scale to that, and the offerings and the prices and all this to get to that number would not have been fulfilling, nor would it have been smart, because the purpose was misguided. The purpose should just be to serve as many people as possible, and to say, how many more people's lives can I make easier? Like, that is always going to be the way to win. So what does that mean? That means what I kind of talked about earlier. Like, I now have had a podcast nearing 100 episodes. So I know podcasting. I'm connected with amazing podcasters, like really top 100 podcasters. I have all the input I need so I could help someone use that medium. I could help people use video. I could help people use LinkedIn. I could help people, launch a book. So how can I, and the money, like, even on like an amazing year, we did the numbers just last week. If everything goes right and then some, we might hit 1 million, but probably not. And that doesn't matter. It matters, like, how many more people can I help? Period. So to answer your question, that's all I give a shit about. That's all I care about. Like, I cannot tell you how much better it is to get a message that's like, that post today or whatever completely, flipped a switch for me, or it resonated so deeply. Here's what I've been going through, and here's how it helped. That's more important than when I get a signed proposal. And I'm not saying that just to say it. Like, that matters so much, because you know what that means, Mike? That means I actually connected with someone, like, on a deep level, and I did it virtually.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And that's what I want for everyone. Like, virtual connections are real connections if you put in the time and the effort. So again, if you put in to serve, then I believe it's just going to be karmic, man. Like, I'm not saying I do these things with the expectation, like, okay, like something awesome better happen. Like, no. Just keep doing it. But what I've seen is that good things do start to happen. I know you've seen it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like you said, right? It's about that karmic. I look at energy flow, right? Like, if I put enough good energy out there, it's eventually going to get back to me. And I'm not looking for it to come back to me, but I'm going to fill the universe so much that eventually it's going to overflow my way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, I love that.
And I just keep putting impact out there, right? It's all about the impact. I like you said, I mean, basically you're scaling your impact, and that's the key to me, right? I want to impact. I want to make a ripple effect. I want to reach people that need it. I want to be able to help them share their voice, because the only difference between Gary Vee, Dave Meltzer, Ed Mylett, and a few others is their own personal perspective added on top.
Mm-hmm.
They're all saying the same message, And when, back 2 years ago when I was, in a jaded place, Gary Vee was great for me at that time because of his harsh, blunt candor, right?
Me too.
Cut through the bullshit, straight to the point. I'm going to punch you in the face with it, right?
Totally.
Not only that, all my family's from Brooklyn, so it just made sense. And, and then as I started evolving a little, then, Ed Mylett and David Meltzer started being a little bit softer and a little bit more energy-wise, making more sense with me at that point. But it was the same message. And that's what I realized. Lewis Howes, like, they all have the same message. It's all perspective. Yep. So the more perspectives that we can share, the better off we are.
And one thing is, like, the last time I met with Gary and I had him on the podcast, and it was an amazing experience, I said, hey, man, I go, here's one thing I really learned is I don't consume your content nearly as much as I used to. And he's just kind of like, yup. And I'm like, I know it's there if I need it, but I need to be focused. And you know what? Like, I'm on a big Andy Frisella kick right now. I'd never heard of him until one of my clients is like, who's on his podcast is like, yeah, dude, you got to check him out. I'm like, okay. So I've been listening to his podcast from 2015, 2016. Like, I don't know what he's talking about now. I'm kind of doing it in reverse. It's kind of ridiculous. But the point is, that's really applicable. A lot of the things he's saying, even back then, is what applies to me now. Does that mean I can't gain or learn from some of the other people? No, it just means things change a little bit. It's that's the other reason, man. Like, that's the other reason to make content. Like, people could always go back to it when they want, and you will, even if you had an impact and you're not the flavor of the month now, they'll still remember the fact that you had an impact on them.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't know Gary Vee personally. You do. And I got to believe, based on everything that I've seen, all the content I consumed, years and years I consumed in a matter of a 2-year period, that he seems like the type of person that as long as he owns the Jets first, he'd be the absolute happiest person on the planet if no one ever needed to hear his information again.
True.
Because that means the world would just be in a better place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you resonate with people, when you're doing it for that reason. You know, like that I think is the core purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as transitioning goes, you know, when you're going through these transitions, like what you've gone through, all your different ones, what I've gone through, many different ones, you know, I needed to hear something from somebody that I was relatable to at that time.
Yes.
So that it got me to the next step.
Yes.
And I think the way that Gary comes across is great for youth because there's just so much candor and direct bluntness.
Yeah.
And I love the cursing because that's just me, right? Like I get it. Yeah. So my kids, if that's the worst thing my kids do, I'm the happiest person on the planet.
Yeah.
Like that stuff doesn't matter to me. I mean, I don't need them running around F this, F that, F that. But you know, if that's what they do, it's okay. Don't hurt anyone, don't steal anything, don't kill anyone, right? So those steps first. But it's like I look at this and it's all about getting our messages out and amplifying others' messages, right? And helping them reach. And I appreciate you being here. And I know my screen's still frozen on my side because this is live.
No, you're not at all.
Well, on my side, I see nothing. So we're
gotcha.
And it's okay. It's life.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate you, man. And I appreciate you a year ago when you were there for me. And I was a whiny little shit. And
nope, not at all. You were a person living. And that's it.
Well, we all go through our shit, right? And
yep.
Then you find Brene Brown, and then you realize you really have shit to deal with. And then you get rid of it. That's the best part. But I appreciate you, Rich. Thank you so much for being here. And
thank you.
I know you have to cut out, so any last things you want to say to anybody?
No, Mike, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me on. And anyone who is reluctant, to put out content, or anyone who just feels like there's more they need to learn about certain aspects about entrepreneurship, I would say go to the Leadership Locker, check it out. Like, I'm not monetizing off that. I'm not here to pitch anything. I'm saying there's really good information, really good guests that are going to help you in all kinds of aspects of entrepreneurship and just in life and transitions, which is exactly what Mike's trying to do. So check that out, and hopefully it'll help. And otherwise, I appreciate you, Mike. Thank you. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Definitely. All right, guys. Have a great day, and I'll be back at some point tomorrow. I don't even know yet, but I will be. All right. Bye.
Later.